On this episode of Carnage, we're going to look at what went wrong with the Trolvo, and then we're going to fix it. Last time we ran the Trolvo, we had high hopes for running some 950s or better over the quarter, but we had a very troublesome day. We had traction issues, we had problems with boost pipes blowing off, and then we flipped the serpentine belt over, which then went crazy and chewed through the timing cover. There is the timing cover. As you can see, it's damaged it quite severely. So we've got a couple of 10.0s out of the car, and you know, only at 25 pounds of boost. The car has 30 in it right now. So, you know, we could have run a lot faster, but we were sort of edging up on it during the day. Unfortunately, we only got 4 runs, so we didn't get to go all the way with it, which is a bit of a bummer, because I'm pretty confident it would have run the numbers we wanted, which is probably like 950s at 143 mile an hour or something like that. I reckon that's where it's going to go. But now we have the opportunity to make it even faster and fix it as well. So we've jumped on the web and we've ordered a new front cover. There's a new one, there's the old one. You can see the difference. Yeah. So it chewed it out pretty badly. And when it chewed it out, it spat pieces of plastic into the timing belt. So we got pieces of molten plastic embedded into our timing belt, which isn't such a terrible thing. I mean, it's not great, and it hasn't snapped the belt at all. But when it did all that, it pushed the trigger wheel off the back of the crank pulley and disabled the crank trigger. So if you stick your head down here and have a look, you'll see our crank wheel is spinning freely. So while some of that plastic has embedded itself into the belt, it hasn't broken the belt, which would have been really bad, by the way. If we'd broken the belt, yeah, I think we would have done some big time damage. I'm decided of going to replace the timing belt because we definitely don't need that to break. Even though these aftermarket Gates belts are very strong, why even let it have the chance? And I've also bought this one-piece timing pulley. So the timing pulley on a non-VVTi JZ consists of a 2-piece arrangement. It's got the 12-tooth trigger wheel and then obviously your timing pulley, and that trigger wheel is just pressed onto the back of the pulley, and sometimes they can come apart. Some people whack a little TIG weld on there, like just a couple tacks to try and help them stay together, but I like this idea, a one-piece billet arrangement. So you've got your trigger wheel built into the back and it's never going to come apart. I mean, that's the way to do it, I think. And it wasn't super expensive either. So yeah, we're going to replace our factory pulley with this unit, put a new belt on it, seal it back up, and then send it back to the dyno and maybe find a little bit more boost. To kick things off, we're going to put the crank bolt in there so we can wind it over to top dead center, and that way we can have our cams and our crank aligned to where it's going to be. So this will make the timing belt replacement a lot easier. So wind that in first. So I've wound the motor over so the cams are lined up with their timing marks. Of course, that doesn't guarantee that the crank is lined up. However, normally it lines up off the trigger wheel, all right? So your crank trigger wheel, there's a mark there, but it also lines up with the keyway in the crank wheel. And if we look down, and we can see our keyway is at basically top dead center, so it is lined up right now. So we can pop that belt off, slide a new belt on there, obviously have to relieve the tension off it, and it should be all good. So we'll just unbolt the tensioner to 12mm bolts. One tensioner. This is the tensioner that we just pulled out of the car. This is the tensioner that we had in the car and we put in the car when we did the cams, and then we didn't do that, you know, a long time ago. So this tensioner isn't very old. So what I did when I pulled that out is I reset it, and you reset them by putting them in a vise and slowly squeeze them together until the holes line up, and then you put the pin in there. So I sat that in the box for a rainy day, and so that's already set, ready to go. So I'll put that one in the box and I'll reset that one after we put this into the car and pull the pin. Slide our old belt off. There she is. As I said, you know, there's some plastic there, plastic there, plastic there. So there's at least 3 bits, there's a 4th bit. So I'm not sure that it would break at any time, you know, in the next 5 years. However, why take the risk? Belts are cheap, engines are not. And it didn't move at all. Alright, let's take them off before I puncture the cooler. And there's our troublesome little crank trigger. Now, you know, in theory we could press that back on and tack it on and it may never come off ever again. However, why not eliminate a failure point if you can? And that's what we're going to do. Now our trigger wheel is on, we'll put our new belt on. Right, so our new belt is on. Just got to put the tensioner in, but obviously got to send it back up. Let's do that. Alrighty, that's in. Let's pull the pin. The pin has been pulled. Now hopefully we won't have to do this for a while or ever again. And down we go again. There's always something you forget, isn't there? So I just pushed the balancer on. I haven't put it on completely, but then I forgot this little bad boy, which goes on the front side of the crank pulley. Bugger! Now I'm going to pull the balancer off again. Plastic cover. Shit. There's always something.
A few moments later.
So yeah, let's try this again. You go on there. And let's do that again. Ugh. And release. Oh, okay. And we're done. Always helps to print out a diagram off the computer. Very helpful. All right, let's remove some of this stuff and fire it up and make sure it runs before we chuck any water in it. Right, so we haven't put the radiator back in yet. Let's fire it up, make sure it runs before we throw water in it, and you know, just in case something goes wrong. All right, let's hit the key. Well, that sounds like job well done. Very good. Okay, so it runs again. Now, we did mention we're going to maybe turn it up as well. And you're probably wondering how, why? Well, if you come over here, you'll see in our sensor block, we have a Haltech 5-bar map sensor. So what we're going to do is unplug our line to the ECU and run it to the map sensor instead. Now, because we used the pre-terminated Haltech loom, it was already wired for an external map sensor. You have the choice to run either the one on the ECU or the external one. At the time, we didn't think we were ever going to see over 30 PSI boost, so we just went with the internal map sensor on the ECU. Now we've reached that point where we're like, yeah, 35 sounds like a good number. We'll hook it up to our external 5-bar map sensor and take it back down to Zane and see if we can ascend it a little bit harder. All right, now I've got to plug the laptop in, switch it over to external map. So here's a good thing we got the other day, a Haltech backpack, which allows us to put all our tuning stuff in one sweet little backpack. We also have a Haltech laptop sleeve. So you can use this as a little table, put it on the roof of the car so you don't scratch your paint, put your laptop up the top there, do your magic, then put it all away, keeps everything contained. There's so many pockets in this laptop bag, I have not found all of them yet, but it's fantastic. Keep your wallet in there, whatever. What a brilliant little thing. It's pretty cool. I love all the, just the little detail work on it as well. Page up for power. So I've just switched it from the onboard map sensor to an external map sensor. It was already pre-wired because of the loom. We've hit apply. It is taken our changes. So now we can fire it up and make sure it still runs. But yeah, should be all good. See how we go. Okay, it works. Oh. So now we put the radiator back in, throw some water in it, we'll take it down the dyno and yeah, see how much power we can really get out of this thing. And here we are at max performance. The car is on the dyno. We've got our external map sensor plugged in. So we've mounted the external map sensor on a sensor block because they don't like being mounted directly to a motor. And then the lines run off to the sensor block. The car does run a little bit different on the external map, which is, yeah, I thought they'd be, you just switch it over and it'd be same. No, it definitely idles a little bit different, so might have to do some calibration things there. But yeah, with that external map sensor, we can feed a bit more boost into it, certainly more than 29 pounds, which is kind of 29.30 is our limit at the moment, or was our limit because of the factory ECU. Now that we have the 5-bar map sensor plugged in externally, we can go to, well, 45 if we want, but we're not going to go there because the engine will explode. Yeah, but between 30 and 35 will be somewhere reasonably safe, I think. We'll try that. I'm not planning to run it at 35 all the time, but if we do one banzai pass at 35 pounds of boost at the track, that could get us a pretty good time. So anyway, we'll run up on the dyno, let Zane do his thing, and then turn up the boost and see where we end up at, because we were making 650 rear wheel horsepower before. I'm guessing we're going to make more. That'd be nice. So Zane's just calibrating the map sensor right now. When I plugged it in and just changed it over, it didn't have the right calibration and it idled and yeah, it didn't do things very nice. Now it's switched it over and immediately runs so much better. So once he's got that sorted, we'll make some power. We're going to do a quick plug check. But yeah, something feels like it's holding it back, to be honest. So we regapped those plugs so that we had them down to 0.3 of a mil at the track, but we think that was maybe hurting us a little bit on the dyno. So we put a new set of plugs in it, gapped them to 0.5 of a mil, which is kind of where we like them. And yeah, we'll see how it goes now. That's a new PB. Almost 500 kilowatts. Just doesn't quite want to get to 500. But that's pretty stout. I might tell him to curl it there. I'm starting to get nervous. Maybe. I mean, it was only a small spring we put in it, but yeah. So it looks like we've found the limit of the new wastegate spring. We're at 32 pounds and it has nothing more to give at the moment. We're seeing a slight gain, but you know what it's like. When you start pushing that wastegate open, you start to flatten off that power curve, and it is what it is. You know, this car should be making 500 kilowatts, but because it's pushing the wastegate open, you're at 494 or 495 kilowatts, close enough to. And yeah, that's all we have to give today, which is still a PB, still the best power we've ever seen out of this car. And hopefully we get to run it on Friday and see what it runs down the track, if it doesn't rain. But you're going to see that on a future episode of Carnage.